If this is your only motivation for leaving your job, think again. Money isn't everything. You've probably heard that before. A lot of parents wisely pass on this bit of knowledge to their kids. They warn their children not to chase the almighty dollar at the expense of happiness, fulfillment, and a wonderful life. Unfortunately, the allure of wealth accumulation often trumps such sage advice. We're not saying there's anything wrong with trying to earn more money than you currently are. The peace of mind that money can provide can be very soul-soothing. One of the most common reasons given for divorce is monetary struggles. Whether you're single, in a relationship, young or old, you probably understand that money troubles can disrupt so many areas of your life. So if your motivation for leaving your job is better pay, that's not a bad thing at all. A better pay plan is one of the reasons people constantly move from job to job. What career counselors will tell you is that it shouldn't be your only motivation. There are lots of other things you need to consider before you pick up roots and jump from one employer to another. Ask yourself some what-if questions. Anytime you consider making big changes in your life, you should play the what-if game. This is definitely true where your occupation is concerned. The idea is to consider the repercussions of a number of scenarios. What if your new boss is a bully? What if you hate your coworkers? What if you're going to be away from your family for a significant amount of time? What if the pay increase is offset by fuel, clothing, and travel costs, which your new job requires but doesn't pay for? Your pay upgrade might be nice, but what if it doesn't last forever? Are you going to get continual pay raises in the future? What if your new work requires a 70-hour-per-week commitment? Is the money worth it? What if your new company asks you to move away from your friends and loved ones? Your current job might be a better fit for your life after all. If the only reason you're seeking new employment is because of money, how can you solve that problem? If you love everything about your current career except the money, talk to your bosses. If you're a good employee, they'd probably hate to lose you. Maybe there's a solution you can work out. How about taking up a part-time job on the side? Is it time to start that side hustle you've been dreaming about? There are other ways to solve monetary issues if you love everything else about your current job. Don't let money be your sole motivator for taking a new job. It can certainly be important, but a healthy work-life balance should also be considered. Considering leaving your job? Maybe you should do this instead. Work can be boring sometimes. Even if you have a job you love, every day isn't going to be the 4th of July. It's not all fireworks and splendor. When your job gets a little boring, it's understandable that you might want to look around and consider your options. Of course, there are other reasons to think about moving on from your current employer. Is it time to retire? Are you looking for more of a challenge at work? Maybe you're not making the money you thought you would be by now. For whatever personal reasons, you've decided to enter another stage of your life. You're pretty sure you're going to switch jobs. This can be an exciting and scary time. To make the transition a little easier, maybe that's not the move you should make at all. Instead of simply changing bosses, maybe you should start a side hustle, a side gig. The gig economy is booming. We live in the heyday of the gig economy. This is a labor market where people act as contractors or freelancers as opposed to full-time employees. A person takes several jobs for anyone that will pay him rather than staying tied down to one traditional permanent employer. Thanks to the marriage of the internet and the World Wide Web, a lot of people start careers from home while holding down their current job. This provides a lot of flexibility. They can slowly build a business and transition from traditional employment to kitchen table entrepreneur if their side hustle begins to make enough money. You can start a blog or become an affiliate marketer. Maybe your side gig takes place in the physical world rather than online. You provide local services when you aren't working at your 9-to-5 job. Staying employed rather than leaving your current job while starting a side hustle has a lot of benefits. You can build up your savings. You finally start that business you've been dreaming of. You can transfer to another career or industry. You can build your social circle and career circles of influence. You can always quit and return full-time to your current job or another job entirely. Changing jobs can be nerve-wracking. Are you doing the right thing? Maybe you should stay put. Is everything going to be as good as it looks? Will the new job or company last? You can't always answer those questions. No one can predict the future. That's why starting a side hustle might be a better idea than leaving your current job right now. It gives you some time to test the waters. You find out what skills and abilities you have that maybe aren't being used right now. If things don't work out, you can always leave your job as you'd planned before in the hopes of finding better employment. Do this before you leave your job. There might be a lot of reasons you're leaving your job. You nail a big promotion. Your current job just isn't challenging you enough, so you seek a better position with another company. Perhaps you're right around the corner from retirement and decide it's time to leave the workday world behind. Maybe you aren't leaving your job quite yet. There's definitely some interest, but you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. It makes sense to take some time and consider your options before you leave your current source of income behind. Even the greatest jobs have rough stretches, times where you get fed up and think about leaving. You don't want to make an emotional decision that has you regretting your choice later. You may have others that depend on your income as much as you do. This means your personal opinion might not be as important as some other factors when regarding a career change. Whatever's causing you to consider greener pastures, there's something you definitely need to do before you sever those corporate ties. Break out the pen and paper and get objective. It's time to make 4 lists. We just mentioned the word objective. You want to keep this in mind. There definitionally should be considerations for your unique situation, but in the end, the lists you're about to make are only going to reveal your best choice if you're totally objective. Put your emotions away. Get a couple of sheets of paper and a pen. Draw a line down the middle of each sheet of paper. Then you're going to list the pros and cons of leaving your job. You might be wondering why you have 2 sheets of paper instead of 1. Most people understand the sensibility of entertaining the ups and downs of making a career change. A lot of times, though, they only list the pros and cons for their current situation. You should definitely do that. Your first list should look at the advantages and disadvantages of leaving your job that will impact you immediately. These are the short-term ramifications. What will happen immediately? How is this going to change your life in the next 6 months and the next year, even the next couple of years? Then on to the second piece of paper. You'll want to list the pros and cons several years down the road. You're going to have to do some fortune telling here, and that's okay. Talk to people in the industry you're going to be entering. Discuss what the future looks like with your would-be employer. If you're thinking about retiring or starting your own business, what does that look like? How's your life going to change? What are the long-term ups and downs you're probably going to face? Just about everyone performs a pros and cons exercise before they think about leaving a job, and that's important. It's just as important to go through the same exercise for the long term and not just the short term in mind. This can keep you from having to jump ship again in just a couple of years because you didn't take the long-term effects of your decision into consideration. Don't leave your job until you have developed this. That's it. You've had it. Enough is enough. You, your friends, your family members, and coworkers have all been telling you that you need to leave your job. It's beneath you. You don't feel challenged. The pay stinks. The future prospects for your industry don't look rosy, and you have an hour commute you have to deal with twice a day. That type of scenario seems perfect for abandoning your job. When there are more disadvantages than advantages on a job, it might seem like jumping ship is the logical choice. That may be so, but don't leave your current job until you've developed a game plan for the future. It's not enough to have a new job lined up and waiting. You've done a lot of thinking about this and started putting away a few dollars. You've already landed a new job. You're going to give 2 weeks' notice to your current employer and make sure you don't burn any bridges. Those are wise considerations to make if you're thinking about leaving your current employer. They might not be enough. Have you done a lot of research on the company you're going to be joining? It's wise to talk to current employees of that company and see what they have to say. These should be people already working the same type of job you're going to perform. Are they happy? Do they regularly advance up the corporate ladder? Did you ask about travel? Some jobs look really great at first, but companies don't usually highlight the negatives to a position. Planning for your future means looking at the downside to a possible job as well as all the upside. What happens if the new job doesn't work out? Do you have a plan for that happening? You need to. You could be the hardest worker with the best intentions, but companies fail all of the time. If this happens, are you stuck? Your game plan should look past your new job. Don't just make a game plan for right now. Think about next year and a few years down the road. If you take a job you're considering right now, will that actually work against you in the future rather than being a smart move? The more questions you ask and answer in this position, the better game plan you'll develop. This gives you the best possible chance at making the right decision for your current reality and your future. You might find your proposed job change isn't as promising as it looks, or that it truly is the miracle job you've been looking for. 7 ways to quit your job without burning bridges. Are you thinking about leaving your current job? If so, don't be like Chinese General Zhang Hu. He did something during the Battle of Julu in 207 BC that was wildly successful, if not a little bit crazy. We don't recommend you doing the same thing if you're thinking about leaving your job. Zhang Yu was asked to help the Chu kingdom overcome the soldiers of the Qin dynasty. When he took on the job, he found the soldiers he'd be leading had been doing nothing for 46 days. They'd been waiting for the Qin fighters to become worn out and fatigued from fighting other battles. The Chu troops were not only ill-prepared to fight, they were also outnumbered 10-1. In spite of this and their idle state, General Zhang Yu forced his soldiers to make a choice. He had their boats burned and destroyed all but 3 days' worth of rations. By burning the bridges of other possibilities, the outnumbered soldiers had to prevail against terrible odds in just 3 days, or they would die with no supplies and no means of escape. They were told if they wanted more supplies, they could take them from their enemy. With victory as their only option, the poorly trained and smaller Shu army defeated the mighty Qin soldiers. Call it brave, insane, or crazy, but it worked. The history books tell us so. By burning bridges, the only way left was forward. This might have worked marvelously well for General Zhang Yu, but we don't recommend it if you're thinking about leaving your job. You never know what the future will hold. For a lot of reasons, you don't want to make an enemy out of your former employer. Here are 7 ways to quit your job without burning bridges and limiting your options if things don't go the way you plan. 1. Tell your supervisor or boss first. Don't let them hear it from a coworker. 2. Give it 2 weeks' notice. Your leaving should never be a rash decision. 3. Don't brag. Even if you're moving on to bigger and better things, don't rub it in the faces of your current coworkers and boss. 4. Don't insult or play the blame game. Even if you aren't leaving on to the best possible terms, don't point fingers. 5. Don't get short-timer's disease. This refers to the inclination to slack off at your job because you know you're leaving soon anyway. 6. Train your replacement if you're asked to. Do it with a smile on your face, even if you have animosity in your heart. 7. Don't take anything physical or virtual that doesn't belong to you. You might be leaving your current job because it's the worst situation you've ever worked in. Even so, you need to be careful. The people you insult and harm today might become your future bosses or coworkers at another company. Use these simple tips to make a clean break for both you and your employer.